Yeah, I think Njoku probably had his best year last year. I still really like the guy. Still somebody I want on my team, but I do believe that his best year probably was last year.
Who the hell are we talking about right now? Komet. Switch Evan Ingram and Komet in the offense they're in.
The Las Vegas Raiders at 13.5% target share to tight ends puts Michael Mayer in a weird predicament.
67% to the wide receiver position, and I'm pretty sure 60% of that went to Devonta Adams.
Yeah, I think he got like 190 targets.
I just wanted to look at the targets by team for 2023 because I do think, like, from a descriptive standpoint and like a contextual standpoint, there could be some things to glean from it. Like, not always things are going to change for sure, but that's kind of part of some of what we're talking about here. First one I thought was interesting. I have it pulled up right here. The tight ends, I'm sorting them by greatest target share by team. And just going down a couple here to the Cleveland Browns, 5th, 28%. Do we think that that's going to hold, given a lot of that was probably boosted up by having Joe Flacco at the helm? Do we think that when Deshaun Watson comes back, that David Njoku can still maintain the level of production that we saw in 2023?
I think it will change personally. I don't know how great. Like, one of the issues that we have right now in the Cleveland offense is they just hired a new offensive coordinator. We really haven't seen Deshaun Watson play for an entire year yet in the team anyway. So there's so much manipulation to what has already occurred. It makes it very challenging for me to have a good understanding of what the landscape looks like. But I can probably assure you that Njoku won't have as productive of a year this upcoming year as he did this past season. And that has a lot to do with Joe Flacco not being the starting quarterback.
Yeah, I think Njoku probably had his best year last year. I still really like the guy. Still somebody I want on my team, but I do believe that his best year probably was last year.
I wonder if this surprises anybody. 23.4% targets to the tight end position for the Buffalo Bills.
Yes.
Are we too low on Kincaid? Like, I mean, just looking at it, 23.4%, then 15.9 to the running backs. That's probably not going to change much given the quarterback and the scheme. 60.6 to the wide receiver. We know that that's going to shift a little bit given maybe loss in talent. Maybe they add the rookie, but that's not going to go up much, right? So are we a little too low on Kincaid?
Can you actually sort that based off of the week that Dorsey got fired?
Yeah, do you know what week off the top of your head it was?
No, I want to say it was probably like week 10 or week 11, somewhere in that range.
I mean, let's shoot for that. I did this, by the way, and it's not different. I did
do
this.
Not? Okay.
It's not very different. But look, I mean, 22.4%.
Okay.
And I did it at the beginning, like first 9 weeks, and I remember I did it. Yeah, so it's virtually the same. So regardless, I mean, whether it's Knox on the field or Kincaid, like or both, they're going to utilize them.
Yeah, I probably am too low on Kincaid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
most likely. I mean, just that target percentage itself is not what I would have expected.
I mean, I think we have Kincaid around like tight end 9-ish. I want to go look right now. I want to see where we're at with that. Yeah, we have him at tight end 10. Like, he should probably move ahead of Njoku pretty easily. And then what about Kincaid or Pitts?
That's
know.
I don't know.
I'm so non-committal when it comes
just
to
like,
these
I don't
one-offs
know,
like that, man. I'd probably still go Pitts personally.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's fair. Yeah, I think so too. But so I guess tight end 9 is probably about where he should sit. So that's an interesting one. That's a tough one. It's hard to read that situation, but I think looking at the target share, you kind of question yourself a little bit there. Like, damn, they're throwing a good deal to that position. So yeah, that's interesting. All right, what about the Bears? 23.2%. Cole Kmet, is he underrated at all? Like, with Caleb Williams coming in, they're not going to run much of it. I mean, the scheme's going to be different, but Kmet at tight end 18 behind Goddard, Ingram, Ferguson.
Oh yeah, he should probably be ahead of like Ingram. I don't know, man. I don't know.
Should he be ahead of Ingram? Ingram was tight end 2 last year.
I know. Yeah, that's wild. Again, just the overall number, the 23.2% for the Bears throwing to tight ends just doesn't seem true. You know what I mean?
Well, it's because it was Justin Fields.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he was getting the
yeah.
targets. The receptions didn't actually happen.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, and the volume was low anyway, right?
Yeah.
The target share was high, the volume was low. But so that's again
point.
like what I mean. My question is like, switch Ingram and who the hell are we talking about right now? Komet. Switch Evan Ingram and Komet in the offense they're in, which is kind of what I think we're getting. Like we're getting a prospect like Trevor Lawrence coming in, right? Most likely to the Bears.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you, this is like a stupid hypothetical, but if you did throw Komet over on the Jacksonville Jaguars last year, do you think he would have had a similar year to Evan Ingram? Is my question.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think so, but that's also because Doug Peterson is, for lack of better words, he has a kink for tight ends, right? Like notoriously known for basically like
he's always
sucking
had
up
good
to
tight
them.
ends.
But he's also produced them too. Like I definitely think that Ingram has gotten better as a tight end because he's played under Peterson. The Giants fan base wanted that man out of New York 10 years ago. He's only been in the league for probably like 7 years, but you get the point.
Yeah, this is tough. I don't know. I think Komet is kind of a low-key buy in a way. I wonder if you could get him, not necessarily for one of these other tight ends, but like for something cheaper than he should be. And I'd kind of be into buying that, just given his situation is going to change and should be getting better. Tight end 18 seems palatable for me. So that's just something I was a little interested in, if that target share can hold with the new regime, new quarterback.
Good shout.
Okay. Wide receivers. So I did notice that teams with high percentage of targets funneled to the wide receivers generally have low percentage of targets to the tight end position.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of a product of having a really solid tight end, right? Like that's, the teams who are throwing to the tight ends more than not, they have really good tight ends. So, I mean, it seems intuitive, but it was something that kind of just stuck out that I figured was worth mentioning. San Francisco throwing 54.5% to the wide receiver position, easily the lowest for a team with multiple top fantasy options at the wide receiver position, yet underutilized. Like how do we approach these San Francisco wide receivers going forward? Do we just hope and pray that Ayuk gets out of there? If he's there, is he a little bit too high in the rankings?
I don't think so. I think that
wide receiver 12. Sorry, wide receiver 12 for Brandon Ayuk in our rankings.
Maybe like a couple spots to go, but I think that both those wide receivers, Debo and Ayuk, are valued so high because of the way they produce, and it's all because of the scheme. I think anything that you see that's happening with Shanahan over there, with a guy like Brock Purdy, Kittle, those weapons, like it's unlike pretty much any other team in the NFL. So it's really kind of hard to compare, in my opinion, what they're doing to a typical NFL team, typical NFL offense, because it's just different. It really is just a different scheme, really, altogether. So it's fun to look at, in terms of San Francisco and those two wide receivers, but to try to compare what they would look like on a different team, like I think it would be drastically different. So having Ayuk and Debo in San Francisco probably is what's best for them. If they were on any other team, say they're a free agent or got traded, like I would mark them down quite a bit, because I don't think that Ayuk or Debo are going to be what Ayuk and Debo are in San Francisco anywhere else.
I think we can draw some parallels to Minnesota just in this conversation. Looking at 30% of the targets to the tight end position, looking at 54% of the targets going to the wide receiver position, which is very low. Like if we sort for lowest, they're 7th on the list, and that just gives me some concerns about Jordan Addison, to be honest. Like that's all I think about with this, right? Is especially since we don't know what the quarterback situation is, right? Like if we're going, 30% to the tight end, 50% of the wide receivers, he's got to be extremely efficient to return value. And he's going very high up with, the Zay Flowers, those kind of players who are going to be, I think, more full-time players and definitely the wide receiver 1 on their team. So just something that, in looking at this, I was a little concerned about. with the Vikings there.
Yeah, that's fair. Can I just shout out one additional team just because I
Yeah,
think we
please.
like the prospect, but I think given the situation and what was going on last year, which by all means half the season was under Josh McDaniels, the Las Vegas Raiders at 13.5% target share to tight ends puts Michael Mayer in a weird predicament. I don't remember who they ended up hiring to be their OC, but it does make a situation to be something that you might want to be paying more attention to this upcoming season just to see how that changes.
67% to the wide receiver position, and I'm pretty sure 60% of that went to Devonta Adams.
Devontae Adams, yeah. I think he got like 190 targets or something ridiculous like that.
Do you guys remember Hunter Renfrow?
No, he doesn't remember himself at this point, unfortunately.
Who?
But no, good shout out because that tight end target share will likely be higher next year.
Has to be.
That's
yeah.
If it isn't, then
there's a problem. We have a problem.
Yeah, that's
Houston.
good eye. Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna hit the running back position real quick here. Just a couple notes. The Broncos 31.5% of targets to the running back position, which I thought was kind of interesting, given the emergence of Jaleel McLaughlin.
Yes,
if I get his name right. Where are they? The Broncos? The Broncos. They were the highest. Sorry.
They're up there.
I'm looking for them. Like, they are the highest one. 31.5% highest target share to the running back, which is pretty incredible. Obviously, Javonte Williams could be a beneficiary of some of this heading into his second year off of that injury. But I think what we saw from McLaughlin last year, he's going to get an opportunity as well for a little bit more of a role going into 24. So that was really noticeable to me. The Jets at 27% target share to Breece Hall. I mean, it was pretty much all Breece Hall. Is that sustainable with Aaron Rodgers? Because I know a lot of it was driven by Zach Wilson being like a check down machine.
It was Zach, Tim Boyle, whoever else was playing quarterback that couldn't throw out of the backfield, right? Or could only throw into the backfield, I guess is probably a better way of saying it. Yeah, I think that's really the situation at hand, and I don't see that as being sustainable for Breece.
Yeah, that's discouraging because that is a really helpful tool when you're looking at these fantasy backs. So, man, he was so effective. Like looking at his game log, I was looking at it the other day, and I think his last game he had like 31 carries or 38 carries, something absolutely insane. So he's going to be a workhorse, but the target share is definitely going to come down a bit there. So a little concern there, but not too much. Definitely enough to throw him below a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs for me. And I wonder if we should have that's probably about it. Okay. So the Titans at 22.8% target share to the running back position. That was, I think, partly due to like lack of wide receiver help, but I don't think that situation is getting much better this year. So do we expect Tyjae Spears to have pretty much the Rachaad White season? I mean, that's obviously what a lot of people are talking him up and hyping him up like.
I think that's completely viable, right?
Yes.
Like there's nothing else out there that tells you that won't happen, just because I think that offense will struggle, and the easiest way to move the ball in a struggling offense, which is exactly how Tampa basically was able to capitalize off of what was maybe not the most talented running back rushing game itself, was to really just dump off passes to Rachaad, who happens to excel really well in that type of role. And we've already seen with Tyjae Spears that he does the same exact thing. If anything, he's probably better catching and receiving out of the backfield than he is necessarily running down fields or running up the middle, which will have its own negatives, right? Not having Derrick Henry there puts him in a situation where he's less nuanced. And maybe a little bit easier to understand what his game will be when they're using him.
Yeah, similar to like a Zeke and Pollard thing. Like,
yes, yeah. No, I think that's a really good comparison where he was able to be much more efficient in a smaller role. But yeah, I mean, I think that he could still provide that Rachaad White type season because Rachaad White wasn't very effective on the ground still.
Nope.
He was
understatement.
Yeah, he was still super inefficient, but he provided enough. He provided enough in the passing game to get you by, and I think that's what the hope is with Tyjae Spears. Is Rachaad White going to expand his pass catching role even further?
and turn
I
into a
don't think
wide
there's
receiver.
yeah, what, and split out wide every
Can.
play. Like, I don't think there's any further it can go. I think we've seen. I think I've said this before. I think we've seen pretty much the best we're going to see from Rachaad White